Welcome to the Kick-Ass Midlife Method podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Woolston, and today we're talking about how you can optimize your health and performance in midlife. So, what we're going to be covering is your symptoms. How do you know whether you're going through perimenopause or, in fact, that you're through menopause? I'm raising that question in particular because I speak to a lot of women who don't actually know because they're on the merino coil and haven't had a cycle for years anyway. And then the what and why of hormone changes. There's lots around on social media at the moment, and sometimes it can be a bit confusing. So it's just our way of really focusing on those symptoms that you might have to help you put them into context and understand what's going on a little bit. And then we'll talk about the kick-ass five-step approach to helping you manage these symptoms and optimize for your health, for a healthy weight, and for your performance. So typical symptoms. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube and not listening to it on the podcast, you may recognize some of these symptoms. So some of them are obvious: migraine, weight gain, hot flushes, night sweats, brain fog, insomnia, anxiety. Those are kind of things that most people know when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. What you might not be aware of is if you suddenly got very heavy period, for instance, or irregular. That's often a sign of hormone changes. Aches and pains, more injury, like your joints or your things like your Achilles hurting. Another really common one is frozen shoulder. So if you suddenly develop frozen shoulder, carpal tunnel syndrome, they can be signs of perimenopause. UTIs, sudden spate of urinary tract infections, actually uh, related to hormone change. Urinary and fecal incontinence, also. Low libido, these are more of the symptoms that are related to undergoing hormone change. So, what's actually happening? So, perimenopause typically lasts around 10 years and begins in your 40s, but it can vary according to the individual. This is the stage of life when your hormones produced by your ovaries begin to falter. So, menopause is actually the term given for the actual day on which you've not had a period for 12 months. After this point, you're considered postmenopausal. So, using that term menopausal can be quite confusing actually because you think there's a stage that you're going through, which is menopause. It's not, it's perimenopause, one day of menopause, and then you're postmenopause. So, what's actually happening? Hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone all begin to drop off. So each of those affects the other, and it's the balance between the three that causes the symptoms and the issues. It's not just the decline in estrogen. The big question, how do you know? Actually, particularly if you're on the coil, depending on your age is a normal sign and your symptoms, the best indicators. So it's kind of important for you to maybe start writing down how you're feeling because that will help you reflect and realize that maybe that irritability you're feeling is not just because you're going through a heavy time at the moment, that actually those levels are higher than normal, or your anxiety is getting out of hand, or your sleep, and all of those things are probably indicators of you going through the perimenopause or you're out the other side. Blood tests, even though there's quite a lot of money to be made in private blood testing, pretty inconclusive because your hormones are fluctuating. So you could have a blood test one day, they'll say one thing, 2 weeks later, they'll say another. So really think about writing down a diary of your symptoms over a month. That might give you a better indication and awareness of what's going on than paying for a blood test. So to understand the effects of what's happening, it's probably really important for you to actually understand what these hormones do. So estrogen, obviously your fertility hormone, but it's also a key hormone for brain function, bone and heart health, mood, and cholesterol. Your progesterone helps to prepare the endometrium, your uterine lining, for a potential pregnancy after the release of an egg. Low levels then can contribute to heavy periods, low mood, and low libido in perimenopause and beyond. And then testosterone levels usually start decreasing from the age of 20. So this hormone is again responsible for libido, mood, energy, cognitive function, bone and muscle health. And then there's control hormones, follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, big hormones during for pregnancy, around fertility, increase as the ovaries become less responsive to these. So how to optimize your performance and health in 5 really simple steps. So key one, number one, is strength training. So women lose 70% of muscle, or can do, between the ages of 50 and 70. That muscle mass difference begins much earlier than that. So you're losing it from about 30 onwards, but the increase in how much you lose speeds up after 50. Now, the reason that's so important is because muscles help drive our metabolism. So every time you lose more muscle, you're losing your calorie burning energy. This naturally leads to weight gain. Just to clarify, losing muscle does not mean that as you lose muscle, that turns to body fat. Muscle does not turn to body fat. Body fat does not turn to muscle. They're two separate things. It's just that the more muscle you have, the more you're burning calories even at rest. So therefore, it can suddenly feel that you've got much more of a marshmallow body because suddenly your body fat ratio to your muscle mass is higher. So obviously, muscles help you land and rebound as you run, as you walk. They move your limbs. So the stronger you are, the better your movement patterns. Muscle enables you to create force and power as well. So the more power you have, the more speed you have, just the better you feel overall. And actually building muscle can help boost the hormone testosterone. So this positively affects your mood, libido, and energy. So building your muscle is good for the aesthetics, for how you feel, for how you move, for your longevity, and optimizing your health for life. But how often should you strength train? It's really thinking about these 3 things. It's more about lifting heavy. So strength training heavy to your max is really important. Now, what does that mean in reality? You shouldn't suddenly go into a gym and try and lift the heaviest you can do, particularly if you haven't lifted for years. You're talking about building progressively with a structured program to overload the muscles to create more muscular tissue, and that you do with a really structured plan, and you track it. So there's no point going into the gym, picking up a weight, then going back the next week and picking up another weight. Be aware of everything you lift, and every time you go back to the gym, you're trying to increase that lift. You should have some stability and mobility training within your strength training. So that improves your range of movement. So you can do that with resistance work. So you're still lifting, but it should be maybe slightly lighter work. So you could also do stuff with bands or Pilates. That kind of stuff is helping your stability and mobility. And then there's the HIIT work, high intensity training. This performed correctly, and this is really important, that often women can think, oh, I'm just going to do the hard workout and that's going to have the biggest effect. That's not going to work if you do that exercise incorrectly. So actually, I'd be looking at your stability and mobility, and you're lifting heavy and then going into HIIT, making sure that you've got really good base, and you're doing it with correct technique, and that can really help with a decrease in that fatty tissue around your organs. Number 2 is recovery. So adaptation, so muscular adaptation, fitness adaptation doesn't come from just burning it for a week and then not doing anything for ages and burning it for another week, or trying to hit it and thinking, well, the more I do, the better it is. Not strictly true. You need to allow your body to recover in order for that muscles to grow. So we're talking about sleep, and obviously that can be affected if you're suffering from insomnia or intermittent sleep due to hot sweating. So that can jeopardize your sleep recovery. So you can try to improve that by sleeping with a window open, non-synthetic clothing, and de-stressing with parasympathetic nervous work like breath work and yoga. You can also check out my podcast about how to optimize for your sleep. In that recovery, it's about training smart as well. So again, going back to my last slide, it's about actually following a structured, consistent plan with recovery sessions built in. Otherwise, what can often happen is if you're going it alone, you're not really aware of it, and you can sometimes do too much recovery, not enough strength. So it's the balance between the two. It's not doing that thing about, oh, I've got to listen to my body, I'm tired, I'm going to recover loads. Actually, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in your training and then balance it with the recovery. A good indication is resting heart rate. So if you measure this, and that is what your heart does, how many beats per minute, the moment you wake up, that's your resting heart rate. That's when you should take it. Be aware of what your normal resting heart rate is, and then measure it and start tracking it. If it's up by 4 beats or more, then you've probably not recovered, and you can take a bit more time out for that recovery. And then chilling out, that walking, yoga, outdoor space, meditation, that all taps into your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and recovery. So, for instance, if you're not getting enough sleep and finding that really hard, then those other practices can help get you into the recovery mode. Number 3, nutrition. Massively important. Cortisol, which is affected in perimenopause and menopause, is affected, and that can encourage fat accumulation around the middle, but it can only encourage fat storage around the middle if your nutrition's not up to scratch. So what you're putting in creates the energy. If you're not being able to use that energy up, it will be stored as fat during menopause, perimenopause. That can be encouraged to be around the middle. So that's what's going on there. So fiber-rich foods, oats, green leafy vegetables, beans, seeds, flax seeds, all improve your digestion and a healthy gut microbiome. Low glycemic index carbohydrates. Now, what do I mean by that? Low glycemic is, or the glycemic index is an index that's given that rates how quickly glycogen, glucose, is released from carbohydrates in your food. So a high glycemic index means it's released really, really quickly. Low is it means it's released slowly, therefore keeping you full for longer and not driving up your energy and then crashing immediately afterwards. So in midlife, we need lots of low glycemic index carbohydrates. In fact, we need those no matter what age we are. But in midlife, it's particularly important because our bodies cannot cope with that fast release all the time. And then central is your protein. So really good quality organic lean protein. Your fish, your chicken, pork, eggs, tofu, green leafy vegetables, those kinds of things. Now, supplements. We're bombarded with this kind of supplements at the moment in midlife. Are any of them worth it? Do any of them help to alleviate symptoms of hormones change to help you train stronger? What we do know for sure is protein is really important. I've been coaching women for over 15 years. Not one single woman that's come into my coaching program has been eating sufficient protein for their body weight. It's difficult to get that in when you're really busy. So a protein powder can be really important to do that. Now, if you're sure you can hit your protein quantities, and we're talking 1 to 2 grams per kilo of body weight through your nutrition, do that. As I say, everyone I've ever coached is not able to do that. That is why a protein powder is really beneficial. The one I take, it's got 30 grams of protein, so that instantly makes that really easy to hit my protein quota. And then vitamins D, C, and E, along with magnesium, have been shown to be helpful for bone health, skin, and heart health. These can be deficient midlife women. All the vitamins D, C, E, you can get through food. Magnesium can be a little bit more difficult, so you can look at supplements around that, which can help your symptoms. And then number 4, processes. So in midlife, we're all really busy. Lots of us have got big careers, maybe our career isn't so important anymore, but maybe you're in a quite senior position, so therefore it's still really busy. And now what's harder, yes, the kids might be older, they might have gone to university, some of them might already be back and having their own issues about getting jobs, and then suddenly we've got aging parents to look after too. So it is a time in midlife where there's a real squeeze. So stop relying on willpower and motivation, feeling like a failure when you can't maintain motivation. Why can't you? Because you're totally exhausted from work and there's so much going on. Forget that. Forget feeling a failure because you haven't got the willpower or the motivation. Instead, just work on the processes that will support you to make it easy to stay consistent to healthy eating and your workouts. It is that simple. Things like drinking sufficient water every day, set an alarm. As long as you're drinking water every day, that's number one. That will help your cognitive function anyway. Set your alarm ready to go to bed and get up at the same time every day. That research has shown helps improve your sleep. Get a veg box or shopping delivery with all the foods you need to have healthy nutrition that nourishes your body. So therefore, your food, your fridge and your cupboard has always got the right kind of food in to support you. Show up for yourself, hit your workouts, follow a structured program. Don't wing it. You haven't got the time to figure out what kind of program you should be following. You're not an expert in what you should be following. Get someone or follow something or find something, set it up so that it's there to follow. So you don't hit the gym or get up with your own kit and then think, oh, what should I do? And you spend half an hour looking on YouTube, half an hour in which you could just be working out, getting it done and be finished. Go out. Don't think, oh, I've got to be healthy. I'm going to spend 4 weeks not doing anything. That is not life. It's about what you can do consistently in your day-to-day life. You don't want to be burning out. Stop thinking of healthy nutrition as a diet and of takeaways and convenience food as normal. It's not. Healthy nutrition is normal. So change your mindset around that. And then if you've got a biscuit, chocolate, cheese thing, it's simple. Don't buy them. Don't have them in the cupboards. If you're midlife and you're saying, but the kids really need them, no, they do not. That is an excuse. Even kids, when they're little, don't need chocolate and they don't need biscuits. You know, as an adult, that can drive your sugar release up and it's not healthy for you. So why do you think it's healthy for your kids if they are younger? By all means, if you have to have them, put them on a high shelf that actually you have to climb up on a stool to get them. And number 5, consistency. Consistency is the key to success in every aspect of our lives, but really importantly when it comes to nutrition and healthy training, whether it's for strength and conditioning, for your longevity, for a healthy weight, for performance, running or triathlon, and your recovery and rest, your space days. That's all down to consistency. So get rid of that all or nothing mindset, that mindset that says, I've just got to get through this really busy work period. I've just got to get through this period where my parents really need my help. Then I'm going to start concentrating on it. No, what you want to be doing is being consistent, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day, every day in your healthy nutrition and your exercise. That is the thing that's going to make the change to your longevity, to being healthy and optimizing your performance. So perimenopause and beyond, it is the time for renewal. And it's about your mindset and putting in place this consistency that will help you take advantage of that and be in that mindset of it's an exciting time, not a time where everything comes to an end. It's the time for renewal. So thanks for listening, and I hope that has given you some ideas, pause for thought, and is helping you to go forward. Once again, if you like what you've listened to, please give me a like and subscribe to the future Kick-Ass Midlife Method podcasts.